Welcome to the 7th episode of the Rising Through Grief podcast. Today I have Shelaine Walls with me. She is a real estate agent, a public speaker, and she's about to launch her resilience coach business. And you went through something incredibly hard with your two kids, Shelaine, losing your husband to suicide. Would you be open to sharing a little bit about what happened?
Of course. So, well, obviously we had to go through this tragedy. Do you want me to talk about it from like the beginning to the end, or what do you want me to highlight?
Yeah, let's talk about it from the beginning to the end.
Like when I came home?
Yes, when you came home.
Okay. So, um, when I came home I was at a camping event and I could see that my husband's truck was on the driveway, and I wasn't expecting him to be home because he was away at work, but I knew he was coming to pick up the girls to take them to the Calgary Stampede, actually, in Calgary. And I seen his truck was parked quite weird, obnoxiously on the driveway, like sideways kind of. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So I come in, I'm like, hello, hello. Can't find him. I go upstairs, I look, and I look in the backyard. I can't find him. And then I went in the garage, and that's when I found him in there. And he actually had hung himself in the garage, from the garage, like sliders. So at first it looked fake, like it was nothing like you would think you'd see on the movies or whatever.
Mm.
It I had to like take a double look. So then I tried to call 911, but I was just like frozen. And all I could do was go out my front door, and I seen my neighbor there, and I was crying and screaming, and I couldn't even get the words out. So I had to like basically drag this poor old man into my garage to see what I seen, and so he could call 911. So
Wow.
then not only do the police come, the fire truck comes, the ambulance comes, and basically they tape off your house kind of with yellow tape. And they wouldn't let anybody in or anybody out. So I felt like I was uh, kind of in jail in my own house because they just have to do their investigation, right? So that was very, very awful. And then my friends and my family, because I was trying to phone like someone to come to my house. And so they started to come, and the police wouldn't let them in. And then
Mm.
eventually they did. And so at this point, my kids weren't home because I was away and my husband was away. And so I had to make that phone call. I had to phone somebody to please go pick up my kids and bring them home
Yeah.
without telling them what had happened. So that was probably the most difficult thing I ever have had to do in my life, is tell them that your dad has passed away. And when they finally came home, Steve, my husband, they had already taken him away, so they didn't have to see any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so just if I could go back to that for a second. So I wanted to obviously say goodbye because I knew like the coroner comes and takes them away.
Mhm.
And they didn't want to let me go out there to say goodbye. And so I had to kind of fight my way through that.
Wow.
I could say goodbye, but I wasn't allowed to touch him, which is weird. So I couldn't really see him anyway, but because he was covered up. But they did take him away, and then whatever mess needed to be cleaned up in the garage, they don't take care of. So luckily, I have a very strong sister that took care of that. So when my kids did come home or I went out there, I didn't have to see that.
Yeah.
Um, so my kids came home, and then I had to tell them one by one, and I didn't tell them how. And it's still kind of a bit of a blur. And as we move through the years, we talk about those details a little bit more. I say, did I actually tell you what happened? And so to my one daughter, I did, but to my other, the youngest one, I didn't. She was 10, but she knows now, of course. But in that moment, it's like a blur. You're just running on adrenaline. Like you just have no idea if you're coming or going, or who's here or who's not, or what to do. And the emotions that you go through are crazy. Like, you go from crying to laughing about stories to angry. And I can remember throwing things in the garage. And that's not me. I'm a very positive person, but your grief has a funny way of taking control of your mind and your energy. And I I found my best success navigating through this was to let myself entertain those emotions and go through the process. But I never allowed myself to stay. Um, it was being angry or sad, or sometimes you feel like nothing's happened because you're numb.
Yeah.
I tried my best to just remain level-headed, but of course that doesn't always work. But that's my biggest advice, is don't let yourself stay in any emotion for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Were there any signs that this was coming? Was he
Mhm.
depressed or?
Yeah, he was. So this is the problem with the system. It's broken. So he had actually um, battled with depression and some drinking issues, but nothing that I thought was crazy huge. But I mean, it was a problem in our life, but depression for sure. So he actually had went to get some help, to get an inquiry, or get a slot for a psychologist or psychiatrist, whatever one he had chose within the mental health system. So by the time he he had passed away, and then I got a letter the next day that's in the mail, or shortly after, whenever I checked the mail, it's, oh, you've been accepted and here's your intake day. So that was probably about 3 weeks. And I didn't know that he would ever do something like this. I never suspected it. And prior to being a real estate agent, I was working with people with disabilities, and part of that was taking suicide intervention and suicide training. And I was at a level 3, so I was trained to see these signs. And I guess in your own life, you sometimes miss it. And so I had no idea, like no idea.
Yeah, that's incredibly shocking too. I can't imagine the process that you went through with that. That's unreal. You're a very strong woman to be
Thank you.
able to go through that and come out on the other side the way you have.
I feel like when you have kids and there was no choice. I
Yeah.
didn't have a choice. I could stay in bed and cry and wallow, or I could allow myself those days or those moments, but I had to pick myself up and be strong for them and encourage them and be there for them. Like, they were my most important focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. As a mother, I understand that a lot. I feel like that's what we're designed to do. We're
Mhm.
designed to pick up the pieces and move on and support our family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wow. There are so many things that shift, like income, the help we had
Oh,
from a partner and everything. What was that
mhm.
like for you?
Well, we had a small life insurance policy, but nothing big. And my husband at the time, he worked away in the oil field. So when we would have these appointments booked to go, get things put in place, the life insurance policy,
Yeah.
sometimes he'd have to work longer and we'd have to cancel. So it just never worked out that we did it. And it never felt like a priority, because we're like, oh no, we're healthy, we're young. Who needs life insurance?
Yeah.
So thankfully, through his work, he had a small one, and that was able to, buy some time, because I trying to go to work, I was a basket case. Like, I couldn't really focus on anything important.
Yeah.
Um, Even trying to plan a funeral, like, it was getting anything in order, I wasn't really able to do. I remember my mortgage came up for renewal, and this is a terrible thing that they do. So Steve wasn't able to sign, obviously, the renewal, which typically you just sign it, send it back, you carry on business as usual. Well, this case, they knew that he had passed away, and then they all of a sudden decided that I would be a high risk client, because it was just me and my income now. So
Um,
then they almost tripled my interest rate. So that was another, like bring you down type thing. And I remember crying and crying, and how am I going to afford this house?
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing I want to do is rip out my kids' childhood home from them. And we've lived in this house for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something hard to deal with. And then being commission sales and not working, I was going through whatever money I had really quickly, and also not making the best decisions. Like, I remember I spent a lot of my time shopping. I didn't want to be at home.
Yeah.
So a lot of money was wasted. But I mean, it was, looking back, even though I have wasted a lot of money, it was better than some alternative coping mechanisms, I feel. Not that it's an excuse or justification, it's just
Yeah.
how I see it in my head. Um, and then our family dynamic changed, like our whole family. Not, and I have a very close family, but it, it was inevitable. It changed. Not that anybody was had any hatred towards me or towards Steve or the situation. Just it just changed. Like, eventually there became a new man in my life, and that was hard for some people. And the family functions became less because it was hard for some people because Steve wasn't here. Just those kinds of things.
Yeah, for sure. I can totally see that. Yeah, you don't really think about how that's going to trickle down in the family too, with people
Yeah.
feeling the way they do about those things, and they don't really understand either. They don't really understand the process and what you
Yeah.
go through and the healing that you have to go through. So,
Even the day-to-day changes. Like, even, we used to be big campers and boaters and quadders,
yeah.
and so I got rid of that stuff because I mean, I didn't have a truck to haul the camper anymore, and everything just changed. And that was a really hard part. And it still is a hard part for me with the kids, is that whole sense of their normal, their whole life growing up has changed.
Yeah, for sure. How did your girls process that? Was it really shocking for them?
Oh, my youngest daughter, so she was 10, she took it a lot easier. Like, it was more of a, like, she only had a short time with her dad, I think, is maybe why. But I think now things are coming up more as she gets older and she remembers. Um, my oldest daughter, she really struggles with it. Like, really, he is still on the top of her mind every day. She misses him so much.
Hmm.
She still has one foot, I feel, in the past and one foot touching the future.
Yeah.
They're both afraid to forget him.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, they definitely are doing fantastic, and they're amazing and strong, beautiful women, but they do struggle.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was their dad, so of course
Hmm.
they, every milestone, getting your driver's license, graduating, moving out, all of these things, they don't get to share with him.
Yeah, that is incredibly difficult. I can't even imagine what a child goes through when they lose a parent at a young age to any circumstance. It has to be,
Yeah.
and there's like a lack of tools there for them as well. In general, in society, it's,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. And they don't want to just go talk to any counselor.
right.
And then I'm not really able to support them in the best way because my own personality, I want to just move past it. I need to deal with it and move on. And I don't think that my oldest especially wants, she's not ready for that. She still needs to be in it. And then that's okay. And
Hmm.
sometimes when we are together and we talk about it so much, it gets really hard on me, but I feel like she finds comfort in it.
Hmm.
So as a mom, you just stand by them and do what you can see lights them up and ignites them and fuels them to move on to that next day and still remain there, the beautiful person they were before the tragedy happened.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, how old is your daughter now, your oldest?
She's 19.
Okay, and then
So they were 10 and 13.
Okay, wow. Yeah, and being a teenager at that time, I'm sure that made it even more difficult.
Yeah. Well, luckily they were very, very good kids and involved in competitive. They were competitive synchronized swimmers. So that we're busy, like we still had some sort of structure and routine because my husband passed away in July. So the summer was a little crazy. I
Yeah.
remember one time the kids saying, Mom, there's only condiments in the fridge to eat. And we were just, coming and going and eating out. And
Yep.
that part of our life kind of was crazy. But then once school started, it was back to business, back to structure, and I'm thankful for that organized sports to get us all back in check.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I can see that being extremely helpful. Yeah, just having that routine and having
It
some
was so helpful.
yeah.
Mhm. And
So
our synchro family, we spend so much time at the pool and one weekend a month away doing synchronized swim. So it was really good. I think it was a huge factor in our recovery and our journey.
yeah. What did you have people around you that were very supportive? Like, were there things that some people were helping you with that really helped you go
Yeah.
through that journey?
So my sister was like the number one supporter. She just kind of grabbed the bulls by the horns and like right from the day he passed away, making the phone call to his employer, um, getting all the funeral stuff arranged and pricing out where I should go. And she handled every single detail because I just couldn't. I obviously I couldn't do it. And yeah, so she was such a godsend. And my best friends, they were so great. They were here, they were bringing us meals, they bought groceries, they um anything we needed, a call in the night to come over and just let us cry or, you know, take the kids for lunch. My parents were fantastic. I had we had a lot of support. So one big thing I was fearful was I was so fearful. This is so weird that I didn't want to have coffee alone, like morning coffee, because that was kind of our thing. We always had coffee together. And I met him when I was, 17, so in high school. And we always had coffee and for a long time I was like, I don't want to do this alone. I don't want to have coffee alone. And so I remember always somebody was coming over for coffee.
Mm,
So, but just those small things,
yeah.
or you have these meltdowns when you least expect it. Like I remember going to buy Christmas lights at Canadian Tire and being frustrated. Like, I don't know which ones are for inside, which ones are for outside. I'm like, this is not my job. And then I just would have this silly breakdown when all the while it's not a huge deal, but the
Hmm.
waves of grief come, when they least expect, and sometimes they're big and sometimes they're small.
Yes. Yes, I can definitely see that. It is a wild individual process for every single one of us when we
Oh,
process any kind of death. And it's interesting because I've noticed with certain friends that have gone through losses, like especially sudden losses, some people don't even know how to act. They don't know how to help. They don't know what to say
oh.
to make things better. Not necessarily make things
Mhm.
better, but to put you at ease in the moment. Is there stuff
Oh,
people
absolutely.
go ahead? Yeah.
Oh,
Is
sorry.
is there anything
Oh,
that
you froze there. I didn't
oh
hear your
sorry.
question.
Sorry, I noticed the freezing too. Um, was there anything people said or anything that was helpful for you with the speaking process? What am I trying to say? What can people say that better help you in the moment when you're having a really difficult time
Oh,
processing?
sometimes nothing.
Just
Sometimes you just need to talk or
mm-hmm.
cry, and there's no words that need to be said, or I'm so sorry. That's our natural reaction, but
Right.
sometimes you just don't have to say anything. And I think the people that are closest to you, keeping a sense of normal
Mm,
is so helpful because it's hard when you're sad and grieving, to see everybody that you love and care about also being sad and grieving, or being afraid to come over because they think I might be sad, or you know, whatever the thoughts are that we feel when somebody's grieving, having a sense of normal and reverting back to what it was like before the tragedy was very helpful.
Yeah. I never even thought
You
about
know, a
that
pop in
before.
from a friend just for a wine,
Yeah.
or, you know, hey, let's go for lunch, or, you know, those kinds of things
Mm-hmm.
were really helpful, because you don't want to be, you don't want your life defined by what happened, or you don't want to have this bubble around you forever that you're this victim of something. You need to just deal with it, obviously, but you still need to have your old life and your old support and your sense of normal behind you to empower you to get that one foot ahead of each other.
Mm-hmm. That makes total sense. I've actually never heard someone say that before, and that really lands for me
Oh,
like, very well. I notice even thinking about friends who have experienced sudden losses, that could have probably been very good for them and very helpful. So that's amazing. I really love that you shared.
yeah.
That's cool.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, but yeah, it's very unique to what I mean, I hear a lot of stories, so everyone's process is
Yeah.
incredibly different. But yeah, all of a sudden some people get really stuck in grief and they don't do
Hmm.
their normal things and they fall into that
Hmm.
depression almost. So yeah, I love
Yeah.
how you move through everything and all the things that you have to share here. It's just I feel like it's going to be so incredibly helpful for so many people.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. Let's see. So many of us, let's see, well, hold on just a second. So you are really big on resilience when it comes to healing. I do want to cover that for sure. When did
Yeah.
resilience kick in for you
Mhm.
in the healing process?
You know what? I think that I've been resilient from a young age. I came from a divorce. My parents were divorced. We were really poor. I wasn't able to afford to do the things I always wanted to do, even things like school sports, or so I was always finding a way to fit in and do the things that fueled me and made me happy, because like I said, a bubbly person.
Hmm.
So I would do all of the free things at school, the student council, the peer support group, the yearbook committee, anything I could do to be involved and help. And, you know, I did. So I think it started from a young age, but when you move forward into being resilient and grief, um, like I said, it's just the ability to make a decision and move forward in a quick and timely manner,
Hmm.
not allowing yourself to stay depressed, stay sad. And I'm not saying you can't feel those things or you can't be those things or there's anything wrong with it. Just don't stay there. Don't let yourself stay in those dark places, because if you do, you're just missing out on all the beautiful things ahead of you, and you're also not able to deal with the next thing, that hurdle that comes your way, because we know in life it's typically one thing after another in life, whether it's little things or big things. If we cannot move past this one thing, how in the heck can we deal with the next thing that's coming our way? And I could see some of those things kind of piling up, like in my home. Like I would not deal with certain things at home. Like in my office was kind of the dumping ground for all of the documents, all of the cards, all of the things I didn't want to deal with. And then I could see what was happening. I could see the ripple effect of that. And I was like, no, I just have to go in there and I just have to deal with some of the things. And part of that was some friends of mine, when I took my kids away on a vacation, they came and they organized it all. They cleaned it out. So it was, they got rid of the crap, you know, so I could go in there and dive in and just deal with what I had to deal with. So that is a whole platform for my where this maybe stem from, part of my talk when I talk on my own is called get rid of your shit. You've got to clear stuff in order to deal with stuff.
Right.
And so that's my biggest analogy. That's my biggest story that I can ever say. Like walking into this room full of shit
Mm-hmm.
and then having it cleared out so I could deal with the important things
Mm-hmm.
and be successful in that.
Yeah. I love what your friends did. That is
And
amazing. That makes sense. Yeah. It's
yeah,
clearing the clutter, just clearing that clutter, because that becomes mental clutter too. And then we
yeah.
can process things as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
you pile it on, and you just avoid it, and you avoid it and avoid it, and you get further back, and the pile gets higher. That's for life too. You have to just deal with things and move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that as a trauma response too, just kind of letting that stuff pile up. I'll deal with it later, that kind of
Oh,
mentality. So yeah, it's so helpful for people to have
yeah.
tools and realize when they should step in and do something to help. So resilience is so helpful in
Yeah.
everything. I mean, even like I think about breakups, some people really stick
Oh,
in their, sit in their depression and they're not able to move forward because they're
mhm,
stuck reprocessing the same thoughts over and over. So I can see you helping so
mhm.
many people with this.
Resilience is everywhere. I mean, new moms, you have to be resilient as a new mom. You have
Yeah.
to be resilient going from middle school to high school. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even my weight loss journey, I used to be 100 pounds heavier. That resilience is every day. And once you can see it and find it and know what it feels like and looks like, you can unleash it. And it just is the one of the most powerful tools I think we have in our life that we have control over.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. You've done talks with the younger generation of kids, right? Like where you talk to them about resilience. I feel like you said that and
Not on a big scale, just just on a small scale.
yeah.
But yeah, I preach it everywhere I go, and I love to talk to kids about resilience. It is one of my favorite things. Especially kids transitioning from that awkward middle school to the scary high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it just fills my heart. And also kids in sports. I love to talk to them because they have a lot of resilience that they're doing all the time that they're not even aware of, from
Hmm.
homework to managing, all their competitions to managing what their parents think, their coaches think, their friends think. And if we can teach it or even to get them to acknowledge it or even know what that word means at a young age, then we're just setting them up for a world of success.
Hmm. I totally agree with that. Um, so you're starting a business. We were talking about it earlier, a coaching
Mhm.
business with resilience. You are going to launch that pretty
Yeah.
soon, correct?
Yeah. So it's actually a public speaking and coaching and mentorship business, and it's called Wall Street.
And that's a W
And
A.
our platform is resilience. Yeah, I'll just show you here, Wall Street.
Awesome. I'm going to post links to
Yeah,
everything later at the end of
thank
the
you.
show. Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's gonna be so amazing to have you out there helping people. And you're gonna be
I
talking
can't
all
wait.
sorts of resilience and using your story
Hmm.
that you've gone through as a relation point
Hmm.
for people.
Yeah, I hope it will gain their trust. And I feel like my story will, everyone and anyone within my story can say, hey, you know what? I felt like that, or hey, I've gone through that, or I know somebody that's gone through that,
Right.
or I've been through that. And the relatability will gain the trust. And then I just want to, you know, get everybody motivated and pumped up and encouraged and to live their best life.
And we so need that right now. There's so many people who are just having such a difficult time, especially after everything we've gone through
Hmm.
over the past few years. I feel like there's a lot of people struggling out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. One of my talks is resilience in business after COVID, and
Hmm.
how we shifted from, this in-person world to online, and our whole life is now on Zoom. So that's a huge thing, especially for some older business people that are like, I barely even turn my computer on. So that's one thing that I do talk about. And EBMA is that once I dove into researching my talk and putting my content together, it is actually crazy the huge shift we had to do during and after COVID
Mm-hmm.
to still run our businesses.
Yes, yes, so many shifts. I've seen it with so many people closing down businesses, changing
Mm-hmm.
businesses. Even I did it during COVID, where I switched from
Oh,
working with in-person clients to being at home because it was just it was an energetic shift that had to happen too, where it
mm-hmm,
was actually harder to work in person with certain people. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, there was a lot of, I worked in caregiving, and I remember at the beginning, there was a lot of people that didn't want people taking care of their families. They wanted to do it because they didn't want their families
Oh,
exposed in all of this. So there was a lot of job loss in the beginning where if you're a private caregiver, it was very difficult to find something. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
it's just interesting. And there's resilience in that too. Definitely.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, but I think people are really liking this shift too. I've been noticing people like being at home and being able to be in control of their own career and
Mm-hmm,
where their life is going. So, yeah, I love that you mentioned that though. That was a huge shift for everyone.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to go
And
back.
for kids too, because they were go, go, go. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, yes. You're so right about that. Kids were go, 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 and then they were at home all the time doing stuff there as far as school,
Yeah,
not being in
yeah.
contact with friends
I've
anymore.
seen a lot of the kids, their mental health, their ability to cope with that was huge, hard. Like
Yeah.
it was so difficult on them.
Yeah. And going back to that with mental health during that time, suicide comes up a lot
Mhm.
in that conversation too, because so many
Yeah.
people were kind of just feeling
Hmm.
like there was no hope for anything. So, yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
so difficult.
Hmm.
I also want to go back to the conversation we're having before. You remarried, you said, correct?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
How far down the line was that when you met him after your husband died?
Oh, I met Jason. I met Jason quite quickly after, and some people might not have agreed with it, but I always said after what I went through, there's a fairy tale out there for me. There is,
Hmm.
because I am a hopeless romantic, and I give my heart, and loving is what I love to do. Everyone. And so I said, there is somebody out there that's going to love the way I love. I just know it. And so a few months after Steve passed away, Jason, who's my husband now, had put on Facebook, and he was my friend on Facebook because I thought he was a home inspector and
Oh,
I'm a realtor, so that's organic fit.
yeah.
Turns out he was actually a realtor too, and I didn't know. Anyway, he said, anybody want to go curling this winter? And I'm like, and I seen that the people that were going to go were realtors that I knew. So I was like, oh yeah, I should probably get out and do some things. I don't want to stay at home and cry like all the time. And winter was coming on, and like I need to do things to keep myself busy and healthy. So I went, and it was just kind of love after that.
That's
Like, so that would have been at the end of October. And so my husband passed in July. And
amazing.
whether, I mean, it didn't happen like we were friends first, and then it organically went into this beautiful love story that we have. And and for a while it was hard for me to say the words I love you, but you know what? I'm not ashamed. I don't feel guilty. Did I feel some of those emotions? Of course I did. Only because I thought society was thinking it. People were thinking it. I
Mhm.
wasn't thinking it. But you have this like powerful energy of the people around you and the world around you that makes you sometimes think things that aren't true.
Mhm.
So, but no, I was so happy to fall in love, and and we have a blended family, and we've had our struggles with our, my girls, you know, allowing themselves to have feelings for Jason and breaking down the walls. And
Yeah.
but all in all, we're all doing good. It's, we're still in that 5-year period. So we go from a lifetime of people and our life, the way we do things, to starting over. I'm proud of everyone in our family and how we've adjusted and how we move past things, how they're resilient in, some of these things that we have to deal with that in our family.
Hmm. Yeah, I can imagine when that happened, there was a lot of judgment from certain people. But I think what a lot of people don't
Mhm.
realize is we all have our own timelines with moving on. And
Yeah.
sometimes things just present themselves to us that we don't expect, and remaining open to that is
Yeah.
probably the most beneficial thing we can do. So I've seen other families go through that too, like big families where one of the partners passed and they found someone within that year and got remarried. And some
Mhm.
people are just like, how can you do that? But it's I don't even think it's about that. Do you have any insight into that?
So the thing is, it wasn't our choice. It wasn't my choice
Mm,
for someone to take their life, for Steve to take his life,
yeah,
for him to leave me.
right.
it it's my choice how I want to deal with it and how I want to move on. And
Yeah.
like you said, I want to deal with it and move on and carry on. And whether I fully dealt with it or have fully dealt with it, maybe I have, maybe I haven't, but
Hmm.
I'm dealing with it in a way that's comfortable for me and managing my life in a way that makes me happy and lets me be my best self and the best mom to my kids.
Hmm.
So my uh, my aunt had lost her husband to suicide, and she didn't date for years, maybe 15 years,
Yeah.
and then eventually got remarried. And I just remember, I'm like, she found all her comfort in the kids and stuff, but I was like, there's just more to me than that. I wanted to find love. I mean, I wasn't seeking it out. It happened,
Right.
but I didn't shut it down.
Hmm.
I want to maybe a few times? Yeah, because you go through all the emotions. But then I just let it be. I just let it carry out.
Hmm. Was he a really good support system for you as well with this?
Hmm. He's very well, he didn't know, like you said, what to say all the time.
Yeah.
So he was the more I would talk or cry in his arms, or he's a doer. If anything he could do to help lighten the load of what I was going through, whether it was like blue jobs around the house, I call them, things that I wasn't very good at, starting the weed whacker, or, taking down Christmas lights, or, changing out appliances. He was always on top of those things and just lightening the load. Like, that was his support system, and that was so great, because sometimes, well, most times people don't like to ask for help.
Hmm.
So I always felt like I never had to ask. He always just knew what I was struggling with, or he could see my frustrations. So that was really great.
Yeah. How did is there anything he did to like kind of help your girls with the transition? Or is there anything that you two work together on?
He
So,
just always stayed. He never pushes himself on them, or like a relationship, or, never tries to replace their dad. He
right.
just has always remained the guy that he is, and is open to them at their time to have the relationship.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's great that he holds that space for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that he hasn't tried to change who he is either, to like accommodate him and act different to my kids as he would his own kids.
Hmm. Oh, so he has kids as well.
3.
Are they about the same ages as your girls?
No, our kids range from 28 to 15.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So yeah, we only have one at home right now.
Oh, that's wow. That's a big transition too for you.
Huge. This huge, crazy house full of people coming and going. Now it's very quiet.
Yeah. I can imagine life shifts so much at that point. I still have younger ones, so I'm
Oh,
not anywhere near that
okay.
phase. That is
Well,
interesting.
enjoy it. Enjoy the chaos.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
mine
know,
are
the bigger
6
the
and
kids,
9.
the bigger the problems.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fun.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, still far away from that. And it's interesting because I mentioned earlier that we are the same age, and it's so interesting to
Mhm.
see different people go through different journeys with children. Like we all have children at different ages and we're in different processes in
Mhm.
our life. Yeah, that is,
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm just starting over, it feels like, with a new marriage and, one child at home. And because I
yeah.
got married when I was 22 and had my first baby at 23.
Hmm.
And so it is like I am just starting over a new life. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And
And
there's,
I'm grateful.
yeah. Yeah. And then you have that sense of freedom coming up for you because things are going to shift. And you're both realtors. You guys seem like a power couple from your pictures. When I look at your pictures, I'm just like, they just,
Thank you.
yeah. Yeah. You guys have really great energy.
We have the same goals and, aspirations and stuff, but we are very different. So I think it works really well. Um, Jason's very calm and level-headed, and I'm a little more crazy and out there. So we really balance each other out, and
Yes.
it works great.
Yeah. That is amazing. Is there anything else that you want to touch on with your whole process with your
Mm.
loss of your husband? Anything else that you think would be really helpful?
It's important for people just to stay true to who they are. And like I said, don't let the outside influences dictate or determine how you deal with grief or what you do in your life. As long as you're going in a healthy direction, and just stay true to you and your kids and your family. The rest doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate everything you've shared today. It's just, yeah, people need to hear these stories and not,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, not enough people talk about this. And I feel like it's a very important conversation to have.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be on your podcast.
Yes, yes. I'm going to upload it after and I'll send you a link. And
Okay,
I appreciate everyone
great.
listening. And thank you so much, Shelaine.
Great. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you as well. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.